The Beanie Bubble is such a disappointment. I grew up collecting TY beanies, and I will say I pronounced it as TY beanies, and I feel like my childhood has been a lie. That's not anything wrong with the film, but I think everybody I know knew pronounced it TY beanies. It's going to take a lot for my brain to retrain and call it Ty beanies. It is Ty because it's named after Ty Warner, the person who's behind Ty beanies. So I do apologize if I pronounce it TY beanies at any point throughout this. It's going to take 3 decades of calling it that, having to rewire it. But that obviously has nothing to do with my enjoyment of the film. The film was released this year in 2023, directed by Kristin, Gore, and Damian Kulash, and it tells the story of Beanie Babies and how they came to be and the various people involved in growing them into what we knew they became. Honestly, it's pretty terrible. It's a glorified documentary, and what I mean by that is that a documentary is there to be factual and informative. When you tell a story, it's supposed to be immersive, engaging, emotional, and it's none of those things. It is a glorified documentary because it's factual but boring. That's not to say documentaries are boring, I love them, but when you're going to take something like that and turn it into a narrative, a story, it's supposed to be something that you can find engaging and exciting, and it isn't. It's none of those things. And it's also very poorly structured. It keeps going back and forth. And the film knows it's poorly structured because it keeps having to put the time or the year on the screen so that we can keep up with it. And it's just terrible. It should have been chronological. And that meant we could have followed the journey and experienced the growth of Thai beanies and how things changed and the various things they encountered along the way, and we could have been part of that journey. But here we're just going back and forth, and it's just a mess. And that's not to say you can't do films like that. If it's done well, it can be pretty good and a really good way to tell a story. It's not done well here at all. The characters are not introduced very well at all. And that's part of the reason why I didn't connect with any of them, because I felt their introductions were very haphazard and not very engaging, and I just didn't care for any of the characters or any of their journeys. And that's another reason why it completely let me down. Also, I didn't like the swearing. Now, I swear, I don't mind films with swearing. I watch a lot of horror, I'm very used to it. But this film was clearly aimed at people who grew up with Thai beanies, and it's supposed to have that nostalgic feel to it, and it's supposed to take you, at least the way it was marketed, back to your childhood. It's supposed to be there for people who grew up with the beanies, now having the chance to learn about the story behind those childhood obsessions. But as soon as you start swearing, you're not a child anymore. You're taken away from that nostalgia, and you're reminded of the adult world. And I feel like that was a terrible decision, because I feel like the film had one purpose: for people who grew up with Thai beanies to feel the nostalgia and learn about the history behind the toys. And instead, it is, as I said, a glorified documentary that's not well structured. The pacing is terrible. The characters are boring and badly introduced. And it's not nostalgic, and it doesn't have that warm, fuzzy childhood feeling, but nor does it have that gritty fascination of an intense story. It is bland and boring and tremendously disappointing. The only thing I liked were the beanies and actually seeing the beanies again. But when you have this beanie and I'm thinking, oh, I'm a child again, this is exciting, the nostalgia is great, and then someone's swearing in the next scene, you're giving me mixed messages about what I should be feeling, but again, not in a fun, gripping roller coaster way, but in a way that is badly done. This is a badly written film, and everything about it was just terrible, and I have nothing to say. I mean, the acting was good. The performances were good. They were absolutely fine. For example, we have Zach Galifianakis as Ty, Elizabeth Banks as Robbie. None of the performances were bad, but I do feel like the characters were really badly written, and I didn't care for any of them. And I now feel like a tiny bit of my childhood's been ruined. Not just because we called it TY beanies rather than Thai beanies, but because I now associate those beanies with this film, and that's just, honestly, a little bit heartbreaking.